The world's most resilient performers don't rely on grit. They've discovered something far more powerful that allows them to thrive where others collapse. Here's what separates someone who sustains peak performance under extreme pressure from someone who burns out spectacularly. It's not pain tolerance, it's pain interpretation. Elite operators in the most demanding fields on Earth have figured out something that most people never will. They've learned to treat discomfort not as an enemy to defeat, but as intelligence to decode. Every sensation becomes strategic feedback. Think about ultra-endurance athletes pushing through 100-mile desert races. Their bodies are screaming the same distress signals yours would. The difference is in how their brains process those signals. While most people interpret muscle fatigue as a stop sign, they read it as data about pacing, hydration, and mechanical efficiency. This isn't just mindset fluff. Neuroscience research shows that when you reframe stress from threat to challenge, your entire physiological response changes. Your heart rate might still spike, but your blood vessels stay dilated instead of constricting. That means optimal blood flow to your brain exactly when you need clear thinking. You maintain mental clarity under conditions that would send others into panic mode. High-stakes negotiators use this same principle. When they feel anxiety rising during a critical deal, they don't fight it. They channel that energy into laser focus. The concept researchers call discomfort as data fundamentally rewires how your nervous system responds to adversity. Instead of activating survival circuits that shut down strategic thinking, you engage problem-solving networks. This is the alchemy of discomfort. Not becoming numb to pain, but developing an entirely new relationship with sensations that used to paralyze you. And once you understand this principle, you start seeing it everywhere in high-performance contexts. Military special operations units train this deliberately. Crisis response teams build it systematically. Top performers across every domain have discovered that mastering your internal state matters infinitely more than trying to control external chaos. If this resonates, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. How elite performers build unshakable inner command. The architecture of sustained excellence isn't built in extreme moments. It's constructed through deliberate daily practices that most people completely overlook. And the beautiful part is, you don't need to be in life or death situations to start building these foundations. The protocols that elite operators use can be adapted to your reality right now, creating mental resilience before you ever need it. Under fire. It starts with radical self-awareness, not the superficial kind from 5-minute meditation apps, but meticulous observation of your thought patterns under stress. When something goes wrong in your day, what's your immediate interpretation? Do you automatically externalize responsibility, or do you analyze your contribution to the outcome? This practice of observation without judgment is exactly what chess grandmasters do after every match. They review each move, not to punish themselves, but to identify decision-making patterns that can be optimized. Another core principle is the power of small, deliberate wins. Research in performance psychology shows that every time you maintain internal control in a challenging situation, even a minor one, you strengthen neural pathways of self-efficacy. It's resistance training for your mind. Start with seemingly insignificant decisions, maintaining posture when you're exhausted, completing a task you promised yourself, choosing a measured response instead of a reactive one. Each small victory is a deposit in your mental resilience account. And here's where it gets interesting. When you combine self-awareness with these micro-wins and add an experimental mindset, something remarkable happens. You develop what researchers call an internal locus of control. That's the perception that regardless of external chaos, you have direct influence over your internal responses. This isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about owning your reactions. Corporate leaders in high-pressure environments apply this daily, transforming setbacks into calibrated data for better decisions. They've learned that the only truly reliable variable in any crisis is their own mind. Drop a comment if this concept has clicked for you at some point in your life, because what comes next reveals how this translates into sustained peak performance that others can't match. What if everything you learned about resilience was backwards? For decades, we've been sold a narrative that grit is the ultimate key to conquering extreme challenges. Push harder, want it more, never quit, and sure, determination matters. But here's the problem. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes exactly when you need it most. The neuroscience is clear on this. Decision-making based solely on external discipline rapidly consumes glucose in your prefrontal cortex, leading to mental fatigue and self-control collapse. Think of it like trying to cross a desert carrying water in your bare hands. Works for a while, then you're done. Elite performers in sustained high-stakes environments, whether that's extended military operations, championship seasons, or years building a company under pressure, they don't rely primarily on willpower because they know it has an expiration date. Instead, they've cultivated something far more sustainable: internal locus of control. This is where most people get it wrong. Internal control doesn't mean arrogance or denying reality. It's the fundamental recognition that even when you can't change your environment, you can always choose how you process the experience. Ancient Stoic philosophers understood this. Samurai warriors facing battles with no guarantee of survival mastered it. They didn't control outcomes, but they dominated their stance toward the uncontrollable. Modern research confirms what these historical performance systems already knew. People with strong internal locus of control show lower chronic cortisol levels and greater activation in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for strategic decision-making. Meanwhile, those who attribute results solely to external factors live in constant reactive mode, burning mental energy, trying to predict and control the uncontrollable. The question isn't whether the world is fair or circumstances are favorable. The question is, when faced with what you cannot change, do you choose to be a victim of conditions or the architect of your responses? This shift in perspective isn't philosophical, it's neurological. Training your mind to assume internal control activates resilience circuits that remain stable even when everything around you is falling apart. If this content is opening your eyes to a different approach, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel continue bringing you this level of depth. How the best transform pressure into competitive advantage. What we're really talking about here is sustainable competitive advantage, because while everyone else needs perfect conditions, external motivation, or temporary bursts of determination to perform, you're developing an internal system that functions consistently and that changes everything long term. Think about how this affects decision-making quality. When you're no longer at the mercy of emotional fluctuations caused by external factors, your choices become exponentially more strategic. You maintain mental clarity in situations where others panic. You identify opportunities where others see only threats. That's the difference between reacting to the game and controlling its tempo. Consider how top performers across domains operate under pressure. They've trained themselves to interpret stress signals differently than the average person. What most people experience as overwhelming anxiety, they process as heightened alertness and focused energy. This isn't genetic, it's practiced. Navy SEAL training doesn't just build physical endurance, it systematically conditions mental response patterns. When everything is going wrong, when you're cold, exhausted, and every instinct screams to quit, that's exactly when they're teaching you to access clear strategic thinking. That's the training ground for internal locus of control under extreme conditions. But you don't need Hell Week to start building this capacity. Every challenging situation in your daily life is an opportunity to practice. Difficult conversation at work, traffic jam when you're already late, project falling apart. Each moment is either a threat that drains you or a challenge that trains you. The difference is entirely in how you frame it internally. The impact extends to team dynamics too. People with well-developed internal control don't just perform better individually, they elevate everyone around them. When you're not constantly draining emotional energy from the environment, you can contribute energy to it. You become a stability reference point, the person who maintains lucidity when the entire system is under pressure. And perhaps most importantly, how you recover from adversity changes completely. Recovery isn't about waiting for circumstances to improve. It's an active process where you rebuild internal resources, analyze patterns, adjust strategies, You're not stuck waiting for external conditions to align. You create your own conditions through internal control. This is real transformation, not temporary motivation that evaporates at the first difficulty. Why this matters more than any other performance skill. The profound implication of everything we've explored is this: internal locus of control isn't just another performance technique to add to your toolkit. It's the foundation that makes every other skill more effective. When you've built this capacity, discipline becomes easier because you're not fighting yourself. Focus improves because you're not distracted by external noise you can't control. Resilience deepens because you've changed your fundamental relationship with adversity. Look at the long-term trajectory this creates. Most people experience performance as a series of peaks and valleys, entirely dependent on external circumstances. Good conditions, good performance. Bad conditions, everything falls apart. But when you've developed robust internal control, your baseline rises. Your valleys aren't as deep because you've built internal stability. Your peaks are higher because you're not wasting energy on what you can't influence. This shows up in recovery patterns too. After setbacks, most people need external circumstances to improve before they can bounce back. But someone with strong internal locus of control actively rebuilds regardless of conditions. They analyze what happened, extract lessons, adjust, approach, and move forward. The environment doesn't dictate their timeline, they do. This applies whether you're building a business, competing athletically, leading a team, or simply trying to operate at a higher level in your daily life. The principles are universal because they're based on how human psychology and neuroscience actually work, not motivational fantasy. Ancient wisdom from Stoic philosophers to samurai codes pointed toward these truths. Modern science is now confirming the mechanisms. Every application of these principles moves you closer to operating at the level you've always known you were capable of. Not through superhuman effort, but through fundamental reprogramming of how you engage with challenge. And unlike temporary motivation or circumstantial confidence, this is built to last. If this video has shifted how you think about building real resilience, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you catch the next deep dive into the invisible patterns of human excellence. And comment below, which of these concepts are you going to start applying first? What challenge in your life right now could benefit from this approach?